Good morning, everyone. A threat for severe storms later on this morning and through this afternoon. So let's take a look at radar and see exactly what's going on right now. Storms beginning to fire up across the western portions of the state. Main squall line still on the western side of the Texas-Louisiana border. But notice these cells that are starting to develop across Calcasieu and western Louisiana. These will be the cells capable of producing the tornadoes and the large hail later on this morning. We call these the discrete cells, supercells, that form out ahead of the main line. Those are going to be the storms we'll have to watch. Now, one thing I'm noticing, you see cells popping up everywhere. You would think that's bad, but that may actually be good, because that means that a lot of storms are firing up and they can sort of rob each other of energy. And I'm hoping we have a lot of moisture in the atmosphere. The atmosphere is very saturated. And I'm hoping what happens, these storms all sort of rob each other of energy, and it becomes a big messy complex of storms, and we lose that storm structure, which is actually a good thing, because when storms can maintain their structure and maintain their supercell status, that's when they produce stronger tornadoes and more severe weather. So that's something we're going to monitor here through the morning, just to see what the storm evolution looks like. Zooming on out, the storms are already moving into central portions of the state here across Vernon and Rapides, so it won't be long here, probably within the next 2 or 3 hours, beginning to work across the heart of Acadiana. The hazards for today: damaging winds, large hail, tornadoes, all in the mix. So a tornado watch is in effect until 2 p.m. So what does that mean? It means that the atmosphere is conducive for the development of tornadoes. And here's what we're talking about. The yellow arrows that you see, these are low-level winds. These are winds at the surface. We have a low pressure to the north, and winds are feeding into that. So we have winds coming out of the south and southeast in the lower levels of the atmosphere. That's ground level. But above that, the red arrows, these are winds in the mid-levels. And when you're talking severe weather, mid-level winds are very important, and winds are very strong, a few thousand feet above the surface. We're talking 70 to 75 miles per hour, and that's why we have a chance for severe weather. One, the winds are changing direction with height, moving from southeasterly to southwesterly, so we have that rotation going on, and then we also have that wind shear with winds getting stronger with height. And sometimes these stronger winds can get brought down to the surface in high rainfall rates, such as what you would see in a squall line. So that's why we're thinking these 65, 70 mile per hour winds could easily work their way down to the surface, and we could see a damaging wind threat later this afternoon. So this is something I wanted to show here. This is mid-level winds. This is the GFS model, and the yellow are the stronger winds. Notice we do have some stronger winds aloft. We're monitoring these mid-level winds, very important for severe weather. But watch closely. Watch later today across southwestern Mississippi. You see the yellow color beginning to get a little darker and increasing. That's a sign that the mid-level winds will be increasing later in the day across southwestern Mississippi. So honestly, I'm tempted to say that I think the higher severe weather threat may be across southwestern Mississippi later this afternoon. Not to say we won't see a threat across Acadiana. I would say level 3 across Acadiana if I had something to say about it, and level 4 across southwestern Mississippi. But the Storm Prediction Center does have all of us within a level 4 risk, so we'll certainly go with that here. Notice the red area, that's a level 4 risk for the I-10 parishes and points to the north, and more across southwestern Mississippi. Again, I think southwestern Mississippi will be where all the severe weather ingredients really come together later today. And question is, will we see these storms come together soon enough across Acadiana for a more widespread severe weather event? I do think we will see severe weather. I think we'll see warnings. We may see a couple of instances of severe weather, damaging wind gusts, a few tornadoes, but will we see the widespread severe weather event that you usually see with the level 4? That may be more so across southwestern Mississippi, but with severe weather indices as high as they are, we certainly need to pay attention. So what does level 4 mean? Level 3, it means that you see more persistent severe weather, but level 4, you start to see more widespread severe storms. So instead of seeing 2, 3, or 4 instances of severe weather, you have 5 to 10 instances of severe weather. It's more long-lived and widespread. Instead of these damaging winds only happening in isolated areas, you're talking more long-lived. A squall line producing 60, 70 mile per hour winds over a broad area, and several intense tornadoes become possible. We're talking EF2, EF3. If it were to happen where we'd see an EF3 across Acadiana, it would be today with the very high levels of wind shear we have in the atmosphere. Now let's take a look at high resolution models to see what's going on. Models right now look to have a pretty good feel. Storms just to the west of the Louisiana border at 9 a.m. So model doing things correctly. That's one thing you have to look for when you're looking at models. You have to see what the initial conditions look like. Are the models pegging things good as they stand now? This model looks to be doing okay. So let's go forward in time now. 11 a.m. moving into possibly Cameron, Jeff Davis, Allen, and the central parts of the state. Later this afternoon here, 1, 2 o'clock. Now, one thing I'm noticing, it's very subtle, but notice how the line sort of breaks apart and weakens. And I've been talking about this, not trying to downplay the threat for today because the threat is high, but many times during the afternoon hours of severe weather events in Acadiana, it seems like the severe weather threat doesn't materialize as much as it could. It seems like our worst severe weather events, I've been here, of course, my whole life, been studying weather 15, 20 years, and it seems like most of our major severe weather outbreaks around here actually occur at night and during the early morning hours. I'll talk why in just a second, but storms weakening a little bit on this high resolution model, and that's interesting. That's something we'll have to watch for. We're hoping for anything. When you have a threat level this high, you're hoping for the best, and any little thing you can point to where you can say that may be why this doesn't turn into an outbreak, we'll definitely take it. We do not want to cause panic. Your threat of dying or getting seriously injured by severe weather across Acadiana is rather low. I'll also talk about that more in a bit. So we hate to cause panic. Sometimes the panic is worse than the actual storm system itself. So we're just trying to keep people informed and give them the latest information and trying to be very truthful. We're not trying to hype things up. We're just trying to look at things as they stand now and what could happen. But again, it's better to be over-prepared than be under-prepared. So we're going to continue finishing the model here. Notice storms moving out later this evening. So this is something I want to talk about. The Gulf of Mexico sea surface temperatures. Notice your little graph there, your little guide on the top of the screen there, so to speak. Okay, so we have cooler waters right near the coast, and that becomes important during the day here. This is more of a tropical-like feature. It comes into play during tropical forecasting, but I do think it has some application for severe weather in Acadiana as well. During the day, the land is actually warmer due to sunshine, warmer than the cooler waters off the coast. So what happens during these severe weather episodes, you have south winds moving over these cooler waters, and sometimes it can bring more stable air, cooler, more stable air into the area. Remember, storms don't like cool air at the surface. They want the air to be warm and moist, so they don't like that cool air coming off the Gulf. I believe that's why sometimes during afternoon events, the storms really don't materialize. They don't reach their greatest potential. Now, anywhere else in the country, yes, during the day you have more sunlight, you have more heat energy, storms are usually worse. But Acadiana is a different animal because we have a more tropical-like environment. So I believe this is something we have to look at as well. This storm is coming in during the afternoon, and I'm hoping this actually helps us. I'm hoping these cooler waters can have some sort of effect and maybe can bring a little more stable air into the area. Now, the reverse actually happens at night. The waters off the coast are actually warmer than the land. So because water, or it's actually a heat reservoir, it holds heat better than land does. Land cools faster than water. So sometimes during the morning hours, it can actually be the opposite. These waters near the coast can actually provide more energy to these storms. You see that a lot, again, in tropical forecasting. Convection usually fires up near the tropical cyclone during the nighttime and morning hours. And I think in terms of our severe weather, it has a difference for us as well. So that's something we're going to monitor today. If something happens, we do not get a major outbreak across our area, I believe that will be why, those sea surface temperatures. So something we'll be watching. I've seen many of these over the years where the severe weather indices are maxed out, very high. They come in during the afternoon and very little happens. So I'm hoping that happens again today. But here's what you need to do. Download the KLFY weather app. Very important. Make sure it is turned on loud. That way, if a warning happens in your area, it will alert you, and then you can tune in to KLFY, and if there's any type of warning, we will likely be on air. Unanchored mobile homes and homes that are surrounded by large trees, especially water oak trees. These trees always become compromised, even in 50-mile-per-hour winds, much less 60 or 70. And mobile homes are very susceptible to turning over in high winds. Even these EF1, EF2 tornadoes are capable of doing that. So Again, your risk of dying or getting injured from weather in Acadiana is rather low. We're not in Tornado Alley. It's very rare that we get EF4, EF5 tornadoes, that total destruction that you see from tornadoes. It's very rare that we get that here. So your biggest risk is in mobile homes and if your home is surrounded by large trees, because we've seen a few instances of people getting injured or unfortunately dying in severe weather events. They have been rare, but when they have happened, it's been because of mobile homes being turned over in tornadoes or large trees that actually fall on these homes. So if you fall in those two categories, find somewhere else to stay if you can for today. Go stay with a family member or a friend. Of course, do not travel in warned areas. Keep it tuned to KLFY, KLFY.com. We'll continue to bring you the latest information through the day. And some tornado safety tips real quick. Get into a basement, closet, interior hallway if you do get under any type of warning. The key is to put as many walls between you and the outside as possible, because during a tornado, many a times the pressure will cause the outside walls and the outside structure to collapse, but the inside structure will remain intact. We've seen that time and time again. So that's why they say an interior hallway or closet. Cover your head. Heavy blanket is best. Of course, you have flying debris in a tornado. That's why you stay away from those windows. And as I just mentioned, leave those mobile homes or homes that are surrounded by large trees. So severe weather in terms of the criteria: winds 58 miles per hour or above, hail larger than 1 inch in diameter. That's when the hail becomes destructive. And if the storm is producing a tornado, it's deemed severe and most likely has a warning. And rain intensity does not factor in that. So let's do a quick review here one more time. Let's look at radar before we leave you. Storms are now beginning to work into the western portions of the state. A little bit of a Boeing segment showing up here across Vernon and Beauregard, something that may have to be watched if that Boeing segment gets stronger and winds are stronger in that area. A warning may be soon upcoming there. But storms continuing to develop across Cameron now, Allen, maybe moving into Jeff Davis through the next hour or two. Nothing crazy yet, so that's certainly good news. We have that one warning. We've had a few tornado warnings across southeastern Texas, but we're not seeing widespread warnings or any damaging tornadoes or anything yet. So far, so good, but we cannot let our guard down. Again, these severe weather indices are pretty much maxed out. Everything we learn about in school that you look at in the atmosphere in terms of predicting severe weather, it's all maxed out for today. So that's why we're going with this high risk. Again, we're not trying to cause panic. Just be prepared. Have a plan in place. No reason to panic over this. We're going to continue to watch it, and we're going to continue to bring you the latest information. So stick with KLFY for the latest. We'll leave you for now in terms of your Facebook Live, but we'll be cutting into programming through the morning.